Hello everyone, in this video we're going to talk about cells. Throughout this video you're going to know what cells are, understand different cell types, and learn the cell structure of animal, plant, and bacterial cells along with the function of their different organelles. So let's start with the basic question. What are cells? All living things are made up of cells, so cells are the building blocks of every organism on our planet. Let's take you as an example. Your body contains nearly 40 trillion cells. We can also say that a cell is the smallest unit that can live and replicate on its own. If we consider all cells in general, we can split them into two groups, eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells. Eukaryotic ones are complex and include animal cells and plant cells, while prokaryotic cells are smaller, simpler, and each cell is an organism itself, for example bacterial cells. And as we just said, a cell replicates on its own, so if we take an animal or a plant cell, they can divide into 2 cells, then into 4 cells, and so on. But when a bacterial cell divides in the same manner, it's not only dividing, but also reproducing asexually. Because every division produces a new cell, which is also a new organism. That's why we call them unicellular organisms. On the other hand, animals and plants are multicellular organisms. They're made up of loads of cells, not just one. And when their cells are dividing like this, they're just growing or replacing dead cells. They're not making new organisms. Now let's look at the actual structure of a cell. We're going to start by comparing between animal cells and plant cells, seeing the similarities and differences between them, and then move to the structure of a bacterial cell. To compare between animal and plant cells, we must know first the subcellular structures that make up a cell, which are usually called organelles. So organelles are specialized parts of a cell having some specific functions. Firstly, both cells contain a cell membrane. It is like the security guard or police. It holds the cell together and controls what goes in and out of the cell. For example, it controls which chemicals can pass through it. Both types contain a nucleus that contains the genetic material or the DNA that controls the activities of the cell. They are also both filled with a gel-like substance called cytoplasm. It is where most of the chemical reactions happen, and it contains enzymes that control these chemical reactions. Next, they also have mitochondria. It generates most of the energy needed to power the cell's reactions. A process called aerobic respiration takes place in the mitochondria, transferring energy that the cell needs to work. Finally, both cell types contain ribosomes, and this is where proteins are made in the cell. Now, all these organelles we've just mentioned, both animal and plant cells have in common. Plant cells have some extra structures. For example, a cell wall that surrounds the whole cell. It is a rigid structure made of cellulose. This doesn't only provide structural support, but also protects the cell from mechanical damage. It has a role in preventing excessive water uptake and gives shape to the cell. Animal cells lack this rigid structure, and instead they have a more flexible cell membrane which provides for diverse shapes and facilitates movement in some cells. So getting back to the cell wall, you may notice some pores or channels traverse the cell wall. These are called Plasmodesmata. They allow transport and communication between plant cells. Animal cells, on the other hand, don't have Plasmodesmata. They have channels called gap junctions that allow animal cells to communicate. Next, plant cells contain permanent vacuole. It is a sac that contains cell sap, which is a weak solution of sugar and salts. Finally, they also have chloroplasts. This is where the important process of photosynthesis occurs, which makes food for the plant. The chloroplasts contain a green substance called chlorophyll, which absorbs the light needed for photosynthesis to occur and also responsible for the green color of the plant. Now, what are the extra parts found only in animal cells? First, they have centrosomes. A centrosome comprises 2 microtubule rings known as centrioles. Its main function is to provide a structure to the animal cell. It also has an important regulating function during cell division, but that will be covered in details in a different video. Animal cells also have lysosomes. You can call them the digestive system of the cell or the cell's garbage disposal. They are filled with digestive enzymes that can break down almost all types of biomolecules like proteins, polysaccharides, lipids, nucleic acids, and even worn-out organelles. Now the last thing we're gonna look at is the bacterial cell. As we've said earlier, bacteria are prokaryotes. They only consist of one prokaryotic cell. That's why we call them unicellular, which means they are one-cell organisms. When it comes to the cell structure, bacterial cell is more simple. It has a cell membrane surrounded by a cell wall, cytoplasm, and ribosomes. But it doesn't have a proper nucleus. It has a single circular strand of DNA that floats freely in the cytoplasm, and it contains all the genetic material needed to survive. Some bacterial cells also have one or more small rings of DNA which are called plasmids. Plasmids carry extra genes, like antibiotic resistance ones. Some bacteria also have flagella. These are hair-like structures that protrude from the bacterial cell and they help in locomotion. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, and if you would like to watch more videos, hit the subscribe button, and if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I'll answer them all. Goodbye and see you on the next video.